If you could just let me know your name and who you're representing here today, whether you're the applicant, owner, someone else connected to the project, or a neighboring property owner. And so we will start with Miss Brittany Ballard, who I believe is a neighbor.
Neighbor, yes.
Okay, great. Welcome, Miss Ballard.
Thank you.
And then I have two individuals under VC Geyer.
Yes, Valley and Rodney Geyer.
Okay, did you say Valley?
Valley,
Could you spell that for me?
Vallie.
Okay. And the gentleman's name again?
Rodney is my name, Rodney.
Okay, great. Welcome. And how are you connected to the project, if at all?
We're familiar with LAD and their Forever Homes and how they've worked in other communities.
And we're Hyde Park residents.
Okay. Welcome.
Thank you.
And let's see. Emily Vollmer.
Yes, hi. It's me.
And, hello. And
Hi.
Can you
I
hear me?
am a neighbor as well as connected to LAD. I serve on their board.
Okay. Great. And so will you be providing testimony on behalf of LAD or as a member of the public and a neighbor?
Great question. I think both. Ultimately, just an advocate for what LAD is doing, but also as a neighbor in support of the project.
Okay.
Do I need to pick either or?
No, you don't.
Okay.
I'll do some more explaining about our procedure a little bit later that will explain why I'm asking that particular question, but
Okay.
that's fine. I understand what you're representing here today.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Woolman. Okay, and then we have RWA Architects. It looks like several people in the room, so welcome back. If you could unmute and give me the names of anyone that's going to be providing testimony during this hearing.
All right, Mr. Strickey, can you hear us now?
I can, yes.
All right, yes, I'm Doug Berkey, the project architect for RWA Architects and the project architect for the LAD Forever Home on St. Charles. We also have a few other people here that are going to be talking. Miss Jessica Knight.
I'm Jessica Knight. We are the owners of the property. I'm the executive director of 3603 Developers for LAD.
Okay, great.
Bo, you're on the list.
Bo Hubbard, JSL, Vice President, Owners Representative.
Mike's on the list.
Mike Malk, RWA.
Okay.
Alan Gervis, Homes by Gervis, the builder.
The last person, could you tell me your name again and spell it for me?
Gerbus, Gerbus.
What was the first name?
Alan.
Got
Alan.
He is on the witness list.
Okay. And are you, Mr. Curvis, are you with LAD or, I'm sorry, I missed that part.
No, I'm a building contractor, so I'm a custom home builder.
Got it. Okay, great. Welcome.
And we have one other person that here present who may speak. Nick.
Good morning, Mr. Sturkey. It's Nick Zipfel. Zipfel representing LAD.
Okay, as counsel, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Welcome. All right. Anyone else in that room that may speak?
I don't believe anybody else will be speaking in the room.
Okay, great. We'll move over to Don Wolf.
Hi, yes, my name is Dawn Wolf. I'm here with my husband, Sean Wolf, SHAWN. And we are at 3518 St. Charles Place.
Okay, great. Welcome. And then we have Diane and Jim Orzali, who I believe are neighbors.
Yes, we're Diane and Jim, and we are right next door to the north at 3522 St. Charles Place.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome. And then Beth Mannix, who I also understand is a neighbor. Is that right? Okay. Great. Welcome. On the applicant owner side, are we expecting anyone else to join us before we get started?
No, we don't expect anybody.
Okay, great.
Mr.
Let's-
Sturkey, can I ask a quick question? Can they move the camera so that everyone from RWA is in the picture?
RWA, if you can do that, go ahead. But I think the most important thing here is just whoever's speaking at a certain time that we're able to see that person while
Fair
they're
enough.
speaking.
Fair enough.
Our camera is automatic, so when somebody in the conference room starts speaking, it should rotate to that person.
Okay.
Technology,
Okay.
I don't know, can't guarantee that, but that is the way it typically operates.
Okay, great. If for any reason that doesn't work, I'll just ask that you maybe have that person change positions in the room so that we can see that person when they're speaking. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and get started. I need to read through our hearing script. This will just cover the procedure for the hearing, and then we can begin. So this is the, let's see, August 6th, 2025 session of the Zoning Hearing Examiner docket. Again, my name is David Sturkey. I'm the Zoning Hearing Examiner for the city. I'll be presiding over the hearing today. The case before us is case number ZH20250065. The purpose of this hearing and the address on that is 3520 St. Charles Place. The purpose of this hearing is to allow applicants and any other parties to testify and to offer and refute evidence and testimony. This hearing will follow rules found in the zoning code and the supplemental rules of the Zoning Hearing Examiner. All testimony and evidence that an applicant or any other party wishes to offer must be presented at this hearing. The hearing will proceed as follows. The applicant, the applicant's attorney, or the applicant's agent will first present the applicant's case. So for our purposes here today, that will include everyone in the RWA room and I believe also Ms. Vollmer. I'll give her an opportunity to speak during that time. Since you are represented by an attorney here today, Mr. Zeitfel, this is a the rules of evidence are relaxed in these hearings, and so you can sort of approach this however you'd like. You can turn it over to your applicants to present the case. You can give some opening remarks if you would like. You can sort of direct examine your clients if you would like. It's really up to you how you want to orient your presentation, but because you are an attorney, you do have the opportunity to make some opening statements or to do sort of a direct examination of your clients if you would like. After the applicant has presented its case, the public will then have an opportunity to speak. For our purposes here today, that's going to be all the rest of the individuals that are in the hearing. I am going to, because we have so many people in this hearing, I am going to implement or try to keep that testimony for each individual neighbor to around 5 minutes. So please try to adhere to that. I'll try to, I really want to hear what everyone has to say and give everyone enough time, to fully testify. But again, just due to time constraints, I'm going to ask everyone to try to keep it around 5 minutes. I'll be a little bit loose with that, but I may, if it goes significantly over that, I may interrupt and ask you to wrap up your comments. I want to reassure everyone that has provided written testimony prior to this hearing that testimony has been reviewed and will be considered prior to me making any decision in this case. So after the public has had an opportunity to speak, the applicant is represented by an attorney, so the attorney may cross-examine any person who has testified in this hearing. In the event that any party testifies or offers argument in opposition to this application, the applicant will have an opportunity to rebut that testimony offered in opposition. So after the public has spoke and the attorney has had an opportunity, if he would like, to cross-examine anybody that has spoke from the public, the applicants will then have a chance to testify again and provide any rebuttal testimony that they would like. And then finally, the applicants will have an opportunity to make any closing remarks. After all presentations have been made, I will close the hearing. Decisions may be expected within 2 weeks. I may limit or exclude any testimony that I deem irrelevant or outside the scope of the application being considered. I may interrupt any speaker to ask questions or make any comments. In the event of any technical difficulties with the Zoom technology, I'll do my best to troubleshoot those issues on the fly. But to the extent there's some defects that prevents us from meaningfully going forward with this hearing, I may continue or postpone the hearing at my discretion. Okay. The last thing I need to do is just swear in all of our witnesses. So if you intend on providing any testimony here today, making any comments, asking any questions, really doing anything other than just strictly observing the hearing, then the zoning code requires that I swear you in. So I'm going to do that now. So again, everyone who intends on testifying at this hearing that is not an attorney, if you could please take yourself off of mute now. I'll need all of those individuals to raise their right hand and to answer out loud. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you shall provide will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And Ms. Mannix, if you could just take yourself off of mute to respond to that.
I do.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone. All right, let's see. RWA, are you ready to proceed?
Yeah, I have one quick question before proceeding with presentation out here. I noticed that no one from staff is on this call. Are we not doing a staff presentation like we did in the previous hearing?
My understanding is that the staff that prepared the staff report is not able to make this hearing.
Okay.
And so the staff report will sort of speak for the zoning department on this matter. There's always a chance that they could show up if they free up from their other obligations, but I don't know. So I think we have to proceed as if there will not be any staff here and that we'll have to rely on the staff report for their opinion.
Okay. On our part, then, if we're starting.
Yeah, the floor is yours whenever you're ready.
Jessica was going to kick off the introduction.
Hello, again, Jessica Knight. 3520 St. Charles was purchased as a single family home where 4 people with developmental disabilities will live. And LAD has been around. We are celebrating our 50th anniversary where we have provided services and housing for people with developmental disabilities throughout that entire time. We have 6 current existing homes in 2 different communities. As we continue to grow this project, we will have 9 additional new homes in 3 additional communities, one of which being Hyde Park, Mount Lookout area. In these homes, it allows the folks with developmental disabilities an opportunity to live, work, and connect where they're from. So giving them an opportunity to live in a home and be able to enjoy all of those amenities, no different than you and I. And so the purpose of building this home and the purpose of this design for this home is to meet their unique needs.
As mentioned before, I'm Doug Berkey, project architect from RW Architects on behalf of LAD here. And our kind of our comments here are, since that initial hearing that we had for the other zoning application, it was on April 30th. After that meeting, our project team got back together to review a lot of the points that were made at that hearing. And our major takeaways that what we heard from that hearing was that there were three main points brought up during that hearing of concern for the depth of the house and how it projects towards Shady Lane. Water drainage towards Mr. Wolf brought up water drainage towards his site to the south, 3518. And a third was the discussion about home valuations, tax valuations, post-development. After discussion as a team, we made some very significant concessions and changes to the interior program of our project by eliminating an entire room out of the program on the first floor, doing some significant changes to the bedroom layouts and the bathroom layouts, specifically at the primary bathroom of the home on the second floor to be able to reduce some size, and then consolidating space in the lower level of the home, all in an effort to reduce the depth for item 1 there of the depth required to build towards Shady Lane. And as such, we've reduced our request from 21 feet 3 inches to the average side yard set or rear yard setback. I guess that's average front yard setback facing Shady Lane, down to 13 feet 0 inches. That's a 40% reduction, which is a pretty significant effort on our part in an effort to be a good neighbor for the houses on that side of the street. But we wanted to note really that this is not a consent, and I don't know if you can pull up the drawings, Mr. Sturkey, but we wanted to really point out that that's not a coincidental dimension. It's a very intentional dimension there to get down to that 13-foot request, because 13 feet represents the extent that the existing 2-story deck, the existing conditions project towards Shady Lane.
Mr. Berkey, is there a particular drawing that you'd like me to pull up?
It's the 1.1 with the existing site plan and the new site plan side by side that I was going to reference there if you're able to pull that up.
Sure, let me see if I can get that pulled up here.
Thank you.
Sure, can you see that?
Yes, we can see that. And if you zoomed in on the lower right hand, the drawing on the lower right, you can see that this is our proposed new house and how it reflects a 13-foot extension towards Shady Lane. But there's a dashed line underneath that that represents the existing conditions. So you can see how we're superimposed over the existing to say that we're encroaching no more towards, we're proposing to encroach no more towards Shady Lane than what the existing conditions do currently.
Are you talking about this dotted line here?
Well, you can see the angular dotted line down below, but yes, that is the setback that we're asking for right there. But if you look inside of our building, you can see the 2-story covered porch that is kind of below that, and it's labeled existing 2-story wood deck right above where your mouse is. Go up a little bit further, up a little bit further. You can,
okay, this one?
that line right there is the existing conditions on site.
Okay.
So as you can see, we are encroaching no more towards Shady Lane than what the existing conditions extend out to. And that's, like I said, that's very intentional. In addition to that, Mr. Sturkey, you can see on both of these drawings as submitted here, there are angles that are just on a random, a selected center point of the deck on 3522. That is taking, you're on 3518 with your mouse. If you go to the other property on the other side to the right, that one right there, those angles, those dimensions right there, if you compare the existing, this is a good zoom right here, the existing conditions on the left drawing, you can see that there is 25-degree view angle between the existing detached structures towards Shady Lane. And that's in the middle of that drawing right there. And there's approximately 143 degrees of angle between that deck and the house to the north, 3524. So that's what those two are starting to talk about as far as the amount of openness on the property. If you go back to the right on the new proposed, you can see that between the detached structures, we've opened up that area there and increased that from 26 to 35 degrees of openness for rear yards between detached accessory structures. And we have 146 degrees of openness between primary structures. So we've really increased the amount of openness for detached, and we've essentially kept the same average from primaries. We're not proposing a huge impact for openness of these rear yards. If you're able to pull up, but also in addition to that, if you're able to pull up sheet A 3.2, which is some sample photos of the conditions, the point has been made that, you know, at least there's openness in between the floors of the existing deck. And I think it's important to kind of take into reference how not open that existing deck is and how really dark that existing deck is when you balance it to, you know, the clean light development of a new structure there. And so that top view in the middle, the top row middle photo is the view between the existing deck. And I don't think that, I mean, what I see as the view of that deck from the north property is a small portion of 3518's house sticking out and a couple of detached garages. The openness and views has been described here is very insignificant with that. But if you balance what we lose, the little bit of, you know, view we lose in that, between that deck to where we're making our detached structure so much smaller and more open, I think there's a very honest and open trade-off for the amount of openness in the backyard. And with all of these, it should really be noted that all of the existing 6-foot privacy fences that remain up and down St. Charles remain before, during, and after this project. So the amount of openness for views is not really being affected that much. And so we wanted to note that we're trying to compromise with how far we're bringing this back, but we're not really taking away a whole lot there with our rear yard, in our opinion. The second point that was made, Mr. Wolf made about drainage, and this photo here is really good to note a couple things. The existing conditions, it's a very old house, and as common with all of these old houses, you know, the existing downspout lines have corroded over the years, tree roots, whatever, has made the existing downspout lines not work. All of the existing conditions being purchased by LAD, they daylight out onto the yard, and all of that water is flowing downhill towards the Wolf's property at 3518. When we build the new house, all of these downspouts will be connected directly to the storm sewer system. So that surface water that's coming off of our roof in major rain events will not be draining towards Mr. Wolf and Mrs. Wolf's property in the future. But in addition to that, we're proposing a new at-grade terrace patio in our rear yard, and that water is going to drain into two area drains. And so the water that is running from the properties to the north of ours and across our property and towards Mr. Wolf's, by the nature of gravity and the contours of the site, is now going to be collected, and that additional surface water is not going to be going to the Wolf's property. And the last thing to point out, and it's represented in the middle photo here on this drawing, there's an existing 30-inch or so wide concrete walk on the south side of the existing house. In the heavy rains, the water that's hitting the south facade of our property and that concrete walk is running off fast and directly down that hillside towards Mr. Wolf's property. And that walk is no longer going to be there. So that water accumulating on that side should be slowed down, and less water should be running off the property just on the south side. So it's three different things when taking individually and in combination should address the Wolf's concerns about water runoff towards their property. And then the third item to note that we'd like to bring up was the tax evaluations or the property valuations. And per section 1445, I'm sorry, I knew I would miss the letters there. 1445-13-N. You know, we are required to talk about how our property is going to impact tax valuations, and it was questioned at the first hearing if that was we were stating fact or opinions, and our answer is that, you know, it is generally known and accepted that, you know, new developments in these older neighborhoods do increase the tax values of the surrounding properties, but we, you know, stated that as that was our professional opinion. Well, since the first hearing, we did a little bit of research, and so and this is submitted as documentation in our packet there, Mr. Sturkey, if you want to bring it up or not. But we did submit 5 examples of new house construction in the Hyde Park area, 2 of which are located on St. Charles, and listing when these houses were built and evaluating the property immediately adjacent to either side of the property per Hamilton County Auditor's tax evaluation or assessment. And what this document shows here is that in all of the cases that we found, there were no negative effects for any property values or tax evaluations for any of the developments there. And most of them increased quite significantly post-construction. And that's what is shown as the first 2 here are on this page are the 2 examples shown on St. Charles. And then the next 3 are various locations around Hyde Park where new homes were built and the existing homes on either side were evaluated. The last thing that I was going to do is just really say is that the other bit of new news from the last application to the new application here then is that we've selected our general contractor. We did not have a general contractor on board the first time. Lad has since interviewed a general contractor and we talked it through. They've selected Homes by Gerbis, represented by Mr. Alan Gerbis here. And one bit of point about Alan, and he can introduce himself and talk more in detail. But he has worked on multiple projects on St. Charles, so he's familiar with the dynamics of the street and some of the neighbors on the street, as well as multiple houses, new houses, and projects in the Hyde Park and Mount Lookout area. So he's very familiar with this type of work, the challenges of these narrow and shallow lots. And I'll let Mr. Gerbis say anything more on their behalf.
Good morning, everyone. Alan Gerbis with Homes by Gerbis. I'm a custom home builder and been building for 40 years. And basically, I just want to state that having built for Brittany Ballard and Jeff Reynolds just about 6-7 years ago, we understand the dynamics on that street. We want to be good neighbors. We will be contacting all the adjacent neighbors with our contact information so that they can reach out to us if there's any issues. And we again understand the dynamics. When we built Mrs. Reynolds' house, we also afterwards completed 3 renovations.
Where am I?
I'm sorry. So we did 3 other renovations on that street, and then actually built a home for somebody else that was adjacent. So we want to be very neighborly. We understand the dynamics of building on the street like that. And we'll do our level best to build the house efficiently, and in the end, build a building that's really, I think, be quite a statement on that street, be a beautiful home. So thank you.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody else wants to speak on our behalf, Mr. Sturkey. I think we're good.
Okay. Let me check in with Ms. Vollmer here. Ms. Vollmer, as a member of the LAD board, is there anything you want to say or add to this conversation at this point?
Just that I'm in support of what LAD is doing, and we've had very wonderful success in Blue Ash and Anderson with these similar type of homes and clusters. And it's been really successful, not just for only the LAD residents that have moved in, but for the neighbors and the entire neighborhood as well.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, unless there's anything else from RWA right now, and of course, as I said earlier, you will have a chance to respond to any public comment and make closing statements. But unless there's anything else from RWA right now, I am gonna move over to public comment.
It's fine.
Okay. Let's go ahead. I'm just gonna sort of go off the orientation of my screen here. So I'll start with Brittany Ballard, and then we'll move to the Geyers. Ms. Ballard?
Hi, yes, we've already talked about my house. I sent a letter in which had some points, but I guess I want to say that when we bought our house, we worked with an architect and Alan Gerbis to stay within the zoning code. I don't care what your mission is. It doesn't matter what your mission is, because you bought a house and you can only go so far. I don't understand why a good mission and having money means that you can ignore the zoning code. And I feel like you asked for an outrageous amount so that you could come back and be like, look at how we compromised. Our house had asbestos, mold, there was a hole in the floor. I mean, the house could not be saved. Alan knows that. And you're taking a home that's not falling down. I understand that it was a rental and it needs a lot of work, but that doesn't mean you have to tear it down. Fine with me if you want to. I don't understand why you have to build something that's so large. You want to house 4 people. You don't have to. You're asking for that. I don't know why one person, one organization gets to change the look of an entire street because they want to. If you stand on Diane and Jim's deck, which is a low deck, and you look down that shady lane, it is a house with a yard, maybe a deck, and a detached garage. In 2009, the homeowner, the owner of the rental, built a ridiculous deck. He got permission to do that because he had renters on 2 floors. That deck is still, I'm sorry, a deck is not a building. it's still, you can see underneath it. And so that the photo that you're giving is looking up at it. You look at Jim and Diane's, you can still see through it to see what Don and Sean are doing. A deck is not a wall, which is basically what you're asking to build. I just, I don't know. We worked hard with an architect and Alan to stay within the code. I don't understand why you think you don't have to. And to build out a little bit is one thing, but you are blocking the views and you are affecting property values. And Alan, you know I've loved our house, but we will think about moving if this project moves forward because it is too big. It is too big. It's still too big. I don't know. Let me see what else. I wrote notes and I'm just, yeah. I appreciate that you wanted to compromise. I do. But again, I feel like you asked for an outrageous amount so you could come back and seem like you're being reasonable. And Jessica, I appreciate that you do wonderful things, but again, your mission doesn't matter to the size of this house. It doesn't. Why can't you house two people? I still don't understand the answer to that. So I think that's David. I might be at my 5 minutes.
No. Yeah, if you want
I
to
wrote a
wrap
note.
up,
You know.
sure. If you want to wrap up or have anything else to say, that's fine.
Well, I mean, I think sure, I want them to enjoy amenities like we do, and you purchased it for 4 people to live there, but you purchased a house knowing what you were getting. I don't understand that. It's not like my husband and I moved here and we're like, you know what? We just want to do this. We're going to move back farther and farther and farther because we want to. So anyway, thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Ballard. I appreciate your testimony and your time here today.
Mhm.
Okay, so we'll move on to Valley and Rodney Geyer, and from there go to Don Wolf. I'm sorry, Don Wolf and Sean Wolf. Okay, to the Geyers. Anything you'd like to add to the conversation?
Well, again, I will say that, we've seen the other houses that LAD has built and they fit into the community. And the community, the neighbors around them have supported the people living there. And Brittany, you brought up why 2 people and why 4. It really comes down to how we can, how LAD is able to service. There are a lot of people with disabilities, and the service model is more cost effective when you have 4 people living in one location. It used to be one-on-one, where, one person had one person helping them. And, that's not really cost effective. It also makes it a community for the people that are living together, that they live with other people. And I haven't seen it be a problem in the other communities that LAD has worked with.
Yeah, the other thing I would say is that obviously to build a house that's accessible for people with developmental disabilities has an expense to it. And to have 2 people live there instead of 4 makes it very, very cost ineffective. So, basically what we're trying to do here is promote the independence for these folks with developmental disabilities, and hoping that, we can have them be integrated into the community, in a more natural sort of environment. And as Valley said, the communities where these people have, where LAD has built houses already for the folks with developmental disabilities, have been very successful, have been very welcomed by their communities. And we think the same thing would occur here in time.
And I think too that the home that's going to be built, it's the idea is to build it so that it fits into the neighborhood. And, you know, it's so that it does increase your property value.
Yeah, the idea here is to build a home that's consistent with the neighborhood and not something that looks like it's, some kind of invention from the, modern art museum. I mean, a lot of thought and care has been put into building a structure that is consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood.
So let me ask the Guyers, so is it your position that this structure as proposed is consistent with the character of the neighborhood, regardless of the deeper setback than the surrounding homes?
Yeah, we do think that. That is our opinion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your testimony. Okay, we'll move to the Wolves and then to the Orzalis.
Hi, good morning, everyone. From our perspective, we do support the work of LAD. I think this is great. I think it's outstanding. However, that's not what we're talking about. We're actually talking about the size of a home on a specific property. And it is my feeling, and I know I was not here for the previous hearing, but it's my feeling that this property was purchased without a whole lot of homework going into it, and that people were not expecting all of these zoning regulations to pop up. And now that they are, it may not be the best property. And that is my concern. And I appreciate that there was a concession made, but 8 feet, when we're looking, we do have a lower paver patio backyard situation. And when we're looking, that's just going to be a big wall for us. And Mr. Sturkey, I did send some comments in with some pictures from our backyard as well, so that you could have that inside view. But this structure being as big as it is, and I get it, I understand the necessity of an accessible home. That's not, again, not the issue. What I'm seeing is that this is going to back out. And I absolutely agree with Brittany she took my line, but a deck is not a solid structure. It is not, we're looking at a big structure. So when I look out my windows, I can still see trees right now. I can still see natural light. I can see all of that. But when that happens, if this structure happens, I am not going to be able to see all of that. I'm going to see somebody's house. And I also appreciate that, information was just presented about the other properties that have been built in our area. But as far as I know, those are all to code, except there is the big one. But this goes out, from our view, it goes out well beyond the structure of that particular home. So when we are looking at how this is going to impact property values, I have not heard anything that is going to guarantee that this will not impact our property values and a future possible sale. So when we are looking at it as homeowners and the neighbors, we absolutely look forward to these new neighbors being part of our community, and we know they're going to be an asset to our community. That's not my issue. The issue is how big this is, because when we purchased this, what was about 8 years ago now, when we went, Shady Lane was a huge, big plus for us. The fact that we could see neighbors, absolutely a huge plus for us. And everything is so open, and we get that there, the garage is back there. It's great. But this is literally going to just impede all of those sightlines. And I'll be honest, I enjoy going out and walking out of my house and being able to see my neighbors and talk with them across our fence. And our fences are 6 feet high. This is going to be a very, very solid structure.
The one thing I'll add, David, too, is recently, we put an addition upstairs. And at that time, we had to go through the permitting process. And at that time, it was very important to the city that, whatever we were adding did not extend beyond the end of the other houses on the street. So, I imagine that's in the file somewhere. It can be dug up for when our permit was approved. And like I say, at that point, the city was very concerned with us making sure we did not extend beyond, the folks at 3516, the existing structure at 3520, and then the Rosales up the street too. They came out and they did measurements and things like that. So I feel like, we were held to that standard. Everybody on the street, as they put their additions on, have been held to that standard. And, it'd be appropriate for our new neighbors to be held to that standard as well.
Okay. Great. Thank you both for your written testimony and pictures and your testimony here today.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we'll move to the Orzales and then to Ms. Mannix.
Hello. Well, the one thing that that was concerning to me when I looked at, first of all, I have to say, I love the design. I think RWA is awesome. I've never seen that they've built anything that's not like wonderful. However, I just think it's still too big. When in our backyard, and David, if you could put a picture of our tree that I sent you, do you have that?
Yeah, I should just give me.
So when you said it's, it would be no further than the deck. The deck, as we see it, is the deck. It's the deck from the second floor that comes out from the house. So that measures 17 feet from the existing addition of the current house, which definitely is a rundown house. There's no question that, yeah. So it's hard to see because of our tree, but the deck extends 17 feet from the house. But the drawings that they're saying actually come to the tip of where the steps come down out into the yard, then they angle. Yes, that's 22.5 feet from the house, which is where they want to build the house to. And you can't tell at this angle, but it's exactly parallel to our tree, which we've been maintaining for 30 years. And I know all of you who live in Hyde Park, could you just show them a picture? That's a picture of the tree. Show it in October. It's fabulous. And they cannot, if the tip of the house all the way up to the top right, of which you can't see, the very tippy top of the house extends all the way out, it's going to kill our tree. There's no way we could keep that tree if they have to dig a basement all the way out that far. And so do you have that picture, David, of my tree?
Sorry,
Here.
I thought that's what we were looking at.
This.
Give me one
So
second
here's,
here.
I'm showing it on
It's
the,
in fall colors.
I sent it in a
Oh,
sec.
yes. I've got it here.
But they never mentioned that. Like this is our, like and here's the other big thing that I just want to make totally clear. I have a 21-year-old daughter with developmental disabilities. I am fully, I love the mission. I am in no way against LAD. I think it's awful. Some of the other, I know what's happening in other neighborhoods where people say, I don't want those people living next to me. I'm hoping, I'm very excited about that. So I just really want there to be a compromise, but I do agree that coming back 8 feet, I wrote a letter proposing that it be more like, I don't know what my letter said. My numbers are all coming back, or if they built it 14 feet out from the existing addition, our whole back room is 13 feet. And I know that, getting, wheelchairs and having the accessibility issues are super important. And I also think that having 4 people, you know, that's what works for LAD. And I understand the staffing and everything is super important to have staffing for, you know, 12 people that are close by. But so in no way do I want it to seem like we're not in favor of that. And I think RWA is the best, you know, they're the best builders around. And I think that Alan did an incredible job on Brittany's house. But the lot, you know, bringing up things like it's a sub-minimal lot. Well, you knew that when you bought it, that it's sub-minimal. Like, make it work within the confines with maybe like a 5-foot, you know, variance at the most, you know, 5.5 feet, like what I said. The top of the deck is not where they ended the house. They ended the drawings all the way out to 22.5 feet, not 17 feet. And so you know, our backyard is, our houses are so small, they're already on top of each other. And if we lost that tree, it would really, yeah, it would, our backyard, we'd be looking at a wall, like the picture that David showed before, that my other neighbor took it, you know, from a cross section of what you know, looking at a building would be like, rather than me like walking out and being able to talk to Dawn and Sean from their back porch. Let that, yeah, right there. So, you know, that's going to be a building. I won't even see the Wolf's house. And our, you know, we have our deck, and then we have a little patio down on the, you know, you could see it down to the left, but there would be a big house right there, right behind us. So I totally appreciate that they reduce the size, but it's not a big enough reduction. And when they did bump outs on the sides, like, I could care less about that, because we don't see the, you know, the sides, whatever they need to do to make it work. But so I just have to say that, yeah, the deck is a monstrosity, but yeah.
Okay.
So. Well, and I did one other thing. I'm sorry. Like, I have this question. The other LAD homes, square footage, like, what works compared to other LAD homes? I'm sure they're not, you know, they're not all that big. You know, how does it work in other neighborhoods, or are they just buying bigger properties? You know, I'm looking forward to them being here. I really am, but I just don't know, you know, if the lots that they're on were on this small of a lot. So
okay. I'll give RWA an opportunity on rebuttal to respond to that question.
yeah, and just I want them to know about the tree too, because that was mentioned the last time, and I don't know how they can dig out a basement that far out that's not going to affect the roots of that tree. I know it'll probably, you know, we'll have to lose branches and maybe canopy it, but if the roof of the house comes out too far, it's just going to basically be a one-sided tree. So I don't know if it would survive anyway.
Okay. Jim, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, just a couple points. I mean, I agree that and I appreciate RWA going back and shortening the size of the building to address our concerns. I do agree with many voices that it is still too far back. I think if you look at the depictions that were provided, Mr. Sturkey, you put those up, just showing where the wall is going to be versus the relatively open deck. And then just, you know, as far as the tree goes, just to repeat that, we've taken care of that tree for 30 years. It's a gorgeous tree. We don't want to lose it. Like I said, we've been taking care of it, and that's something that, you know, among the air and everything else that we'll lose. And just a couple points I'm reading here. And what a special exception must demonstrate will not substantially diminish or impair the value of the property. And maybe I wasn't following, but the numbers that RWA put up earlier, we appreciate that on the different properties, appreciation of properties that were existing, I guess, next to a new property. I mean, my thought is that the properties have been appreciating over time in Cincinnati as well as most of the country. I guess I'm not sure that really proves the point that these are enhancing the property values. I mean, it may be in spite of the property values because of just general inflation and property appreciation. So I'm not sure. And again, maybe I misunderstood the data. I'm not sure that data really proved much.
Well, it's building it.
And then the other point is will not have an adverse effect on the character of the area. Well, I think we've discussed why it would and how it would, as far as looking at a wall versus looking at the, at the tree, as well as our neighbors down the street. So that's all.
Okay. Thank you both for your time, your testimony, and your written correspondence as well. Okay, we're going to move on to Ms. Mannix. After that, Mr. Zeifel, if you have any questions for any of our speakers, I'll give you an opportunity to ask some questions and then we'll move into rebuttal. So Ms. Mannix, if you're with us, if you could unmute and activate your camera.
Can you hear me? I don't know why the camera is not active. Oh,
There
maybe that popped it up. Hey, I'm not very tech savvy. Sorry about that.
We can see and hear you just fine now.
Wonderful, thank you. The major concern that I had and that I put into the letter that I sent to you, which I very much appreciated that opportunity, was the property value. And in our last meeting, RWA, and if I'm not saying correctly who said it, please forgive me, said that they feel that the property values would not be changed in a negative manner. And I asked for apples to apples comparison. And when you compare a new build that fits code, that has no need for any type of special revisions, and say, well, look, they're the same. They are not. And that is unfair. And it is also unfair to make us, by the two people that presented that are not on our street, saying how great the mission is. This is not an emotional issue. We respect I am a nurse. I respect the heck out of LAD. I think it's fantastic. But if you cannot put a building on our street or any street that goes with the street and the building department's code, that is a dead end. We're not asking that you go away. Heavens no. We're not suggesting that. And having these people tell me how wonderful LAD is I frankly find it unfair. I'm telling you that is not the issue. The issue is that you cannot compare a business that is coming in and saying, we need special everything, to say to neighbors and then attorneys with you to tell me, you need to do what we want. My neighbors put on an addition. They came to us and we talked about it, and it works because I can still see straight down my side of the street. I am on the other side of the street. You cannot tell me that if Diane and Jim or the Wolves were to move, that someone walking out their back deck, they're like, oh, the home is beautiful, the street is really quiet, and they walk out the door and they turn to the right off of Jim and Diane's back walkout, and they go, oh, good gosh, that's a wall that has lights on at different times of the night because care needs to be given. Again, fact, not emotion. So you have light that may be coming down into their property. You have the in and out of caretakers, which heck, if my grandmother lived with us, we might need a caretaker. But all of that as a prospective buyer, I believe needs to be taken into account. And the emotion must be taken out of it. If the city of Cincinnati wants us to be part of the team, then they need to be part of our team. And that is follow the rules, period. We did work on our third floor. We had inspectors out over and over again because they were like, oh, we don't love this. You need to make that. Okay. We followed the rules. And just because you have an altruistic heart and you are doing something that I frankly find amazing does not mean you get special rules. You knew the size of the lot. You knew the home when it was purchased, period. That house has been rented nonstop. The people that owned it for like, I don't know, Diane and Jim can correct me, but like greater than 25 years. They took an amazing amount of care of it. You didn't buy something that the walls are caving in. You must, if we don't have the rules, I appreciate what Brittany said. They followed the rules. So I don't, for me, this is very clear, cut and dry. If you want to be on this lot, do it under the rules that are active and don't ask for more. Be reasonable. I don't know. I wanted to look and see if there was anything else I wanted to say. LAD obviously cannot produce or whatever, pardon my organization name out, where there is a LAD property that has been in Hyde Park, Mount Lookout, that has been sold and there was any type of financial information. Otherwise, they wouldn't have shown us new builds that are not businesses, because in the end, this is a business. And tell me it's not a business. It's a business, whether it is a living situation or not. In the end, it is a business. So I don't think I have anything else to say other than our backyards are, as I put in my letter, our sanctuary. They are places where we build bonds. They are places where we see our neighbors and tease each other. We trade food over, vegetables out of the garden. What, Jim, were they going to stick their hand out and hit a wall? That's unfair. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Mannix, for your written
Thank you so
testimony
much. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Going to now ask Mr. Zeitfel. You don't have to, but if you'd like, you can ask questions of any of the speakers.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we can move into rebuttal.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Sturkey. I just have one factual question. I'm kind of new to this application, so a little bit of this is me catching up on some of the facts of the particular property, one of which is the tree Miss Orzali mentioned. I believe there was a photograph of it. I believe she made reference. I saw the photographs. Were they from your deck, Miss Orzali?
Say that one more time. The photos were from my deck.
Were they from your deck?
One of them was, let's see.
Mr. Sturkey, could you go back to the photograph that showed the tree? It looks like, yes.
Yes. That is from, yeah, I'm standing in the back on my back deck, taking that.
So you're elevated on your deck at this point?
Yeah, and our deck's just, one story. It comes right out of my back room.
I
Yes.
see the stairwell.
Actually, I am standing on the seat of my deck, not the floor of my deck. I'm only 5 feet tall.
Okay.
Yeah.
The deck is above grade there because I see a stair down to the patio.
Yeah, it's above ground.
Yeah, it's
How
above
far
ground.
above ground is that?
I don't know.
4 feet.
4 feet?
Maybe 4 feet. You want to go measure?
No, that's just roughly curious. And you mentioned that is that the maple tree you mentioned in your testimony?
Yes. So when that tree is
3 or 4 feet.
when it was, now that it's bigger, I think the actual property line shows that it goes like right through the trunk of it. But we've been maintaining that since we moved in. It's been our tree. And when they did the fence, they said, we're going to bring the fence in to clearly be on your property. So,
Which is practice.
Yeah, which is practice. But the tree, has been ours to take care of for the last 30 years.
So but it's in the property line as you already mentioned, right?
Correct. Yes.
From the survey that was performed by LAD or whoever they contracted to do that. Yes, that's what that survey indicated.
So the tree is on their property.
No, it's on our property.
You just said the tree was split the property line. That means it's on one side is on yours, the other side.
According to their survey, the tree is in both properties.
Thank you. Okay. I just wanted to, before I turn it back to the others, I wanted to mention just a few comments. First, Mr. Sturkey, we're looking at a special exception in this, what is it, the SF6 MH zoning district for this setback, which is kind of a moving target because it takes the averages of the setbacks for the 300 feet to the north and south, and that setback's going to change throughout time based on development on the other properties. So when we're looking at the setback kind of location, I've heard Ms. Ballard vigorously say that we have to stay within the zoning code. Well, what that setback is kind of, it's a moving target. Whether we're not asking for a special exception here, we're asking for, or I'm sorry, a variance, we're asking for a special exception, which is actually anticipated in the code for these types of situations. And these districts where there is a moving target in terms of a setback, that number is going to change with every development on that street. So we have a property that has, for the last 15 years, had a structure that extends back to the proposed building line of the development, the house that we've proposed and what we're here before you today for. It's not going to extend any further. When it comes to the adverse effect or diminishment of property values, I think we've kind of gotten misaligned with what the standards are there. We're looking for, in your analysis, Mr. Sturkey, is whether the proposed development would substantially diminish or impair the value of the property. I've heard a lot of testimony today that says, hey, there's no evidence that shows that it's going to improve the value of the property. And while that seems logical, but that's not the standard. The standard is there evidence before you, Mr. Sturkey, that this proposed development is going to substantially diminish or impair the value of the neighboring properties? And we don't have that here today. In fact, we've provided information that shows every other development that we've been involved with, and in fact improves the property values of the neighboring community. The applicants can try to poke holes, or I'm sorry, the neighbors can try to poke holes in that and say, well, we don't know, and I heard this today, we don't know if that was because of the natural increase in real estate values around here or not, or if it was because of LAD's development. What I didn't hear is, here's the evidence it's going to substantially diminish the value of the neighboring properties. That's a shifting of the burden, and I think that's going to confuse the issues for you, Mr. Sturkey. So I want to keep on track there that not only have we provided evidence that this is going to improve the area, the neighbors have not provided any evidence it's going to substantially impair the value of their properties. Now, this is where all the rubber hits the road, right? What is a substantial impairment on the neighborhood versus one individual property having what they see to be a negative effect? That's for you to decide, Mr. Sturkey, but you've seen the photos here. We have a 2-story deck where the neighbors have looked at this and said, we have, conversations with neighbors. I guess the 318 to 322 or 3518 to 3522, I guess, have conversations through their backyard through the middle of a 2-story deck and above 2 6-foot fences. They're going to say that their argument is that there's a substantial impairment to their value because you can't see through the middle of a deck and yell across one property to 2 properties over to have a conversation above a 6-foot fence. And in my estimation, and my argument is, that's not a substantial impairment of property value. That's not going to negatively affect the character of the neighborhood based on one anecdotal, example that, to be honest, just it doesn't seem very credible that takes place. The other point we have is if we look at the staff report on this exact point, let's make sure I get the right one in front of me. Yeah, this one. The zoning staff actually found that this proposed project is compatible with the neighborhood. We've heard testimony from other members, or I'm sorry, residents of Hyde Park that have said, hey, we've seen LAD's developments. They always fit their, they've done a good job. We've looked at this particular development and, the design, the structure, the layout, the building materials, all fits the neighborhood compatibility. So you have that before you from staff. Now, I understand staff was unable to attend here to discuss that further, but staff does note, and I guess I can only read from it, that the substantial design revisions by LAD have reduced the depth so that the dwelling does not extend eastward beyond the existing two-story deck. And the staff finds that the facade and the proposed development is proportional and in similar form to the other nearby dwellings on St. Charles Place. So we're looking for neighborhood compatibility. That's exactly what staff has said. What that standard is looking for is, okay, we're not putting in a high-rise apartment here. We're putting in a home that looks substantially similar to the neighborhoods around it. And that's what we have. The neighbors can continue to complain about the setback, but we just don't have the evidence that there is some substantial impairment based on that. And in fact, our applicant, as I said before, has provided evidence that it's going to improve the values. So for that, I actually wanted to turn back to others to talk about those values.
Yeah, and and Mr. Zeifel, just real quick, just a quick question here before we get into that, because I think it all relates to what we're talking, or what you're talking about right now. But you mentioned the burden. You would agree that as the applicant, the burden is on you to demonstrate that there will not be an impairment of property value.
Yes,
right.
That's correct. But what we have presented to you is evidence that it will actually improve the property value. Whether they want to try to discredit that to some degree, we haven't seen any evidence that would outweigh what we've presented to you today.
Right, and I think you're just about to get into that, but yeah, could you put some more context around the valuations that you put up? I mean, is there, are those projects similar to this one? Or are they analogous in any way? I think someone mentioned, that they may not have had any zoning relief in the same way that this one is. And so could you just flesh that out a little bit more for me?
I'll be happy to go through it there. I don't have information because it's not readily publicly available with Hamilton County Auditor, but we did significant review of multiple properties around the Hyde Park area, making sure that we concentrated in ones that are, in the area that is contextually similar to this property in question. And that's where we came up with 2 on St. Charles. What we're trying to find is houses that are new build houses that don't have properties on either side of them that are also, new builds or recent additions, so that we're comparing a similar condition to what we are proposing right here, which would be a new house with an existing house on either side of it. Some of our examples, show a house, and so you can do a Google search or Hamilton County Auditor. Some of these examples show new houses that are deeper than the adjacent properties, or at least one of the adjacent properties. Some of them are roughly in context depth-wise with the adjacent properties, and that varies on a site-by-site basis, just based on what has happened on any one of these given sites and the kind of current layout of those. There are different types of houses here or there, just from stylistic standpoints. They're not all these 2-story brick buildings. There are a lot of different things in these examples here. But what it proves per the publicly available records was, at a minimum, you can see that using 3523 St. Charles as the example, the house at 3519 or the house at 3529, the immediately adjacent ones, before the house at 3523 was built in 2020, they both valued per Hamilton County at $340,000, round numbers. When the house was built in 2020, one went up by $100,000, the other one stayed equal. The next valuation, which was 2023, both of those houses went up in value to well over $500,000 per Hamilton County tax assessments. We can pick any other one on this overall list, but they all show that houses adjacent to new houses have increased in value. Now, whether that's because of or in spite of, I don't have an answer to. But what we're going to prove is there is no significant, what this shows is that there's no significant decline in adjacent property values, even for houses that have extended past. And I did
May I
mention.
speak to that? May
No, I'm
I
sorry.
say something?
I'm sorry, but Ms.
Because
Bowden,
those houses next.
Okay, Ms. Bowden, I'm sorry. We're in the middle of rebuttal right now.
Yeah, and what I was saying there was, sorry, kind of just broke my train of thought. Sorry.
It's okay. Take your time.
Yeah.
Take your time.
In doing this bit of research, we made sure to find, some houses that were larger, because that's the trend in the neighborhood. And what I said earlier in my opening statement was, when we talked at the last submittal, I did state that was my professional opinion. That was not based on fact. And we went back and did the research based on the comments of the neighbors. Everything that we're doing here is we're trying to take into account what the neighbors were asking about the first time. And so we did this research based on, I think it was Miss Mannix, but I won't swear to that in the first hearing, was asking for proof. I don't know if this is proof, but it is very detailed and researched information. It's not just a whim and a thought and a hope.
We have 1 second, Mr. Sturkey. I just want to ask one thing.
Sure. And I'll just let everyone know that we've got about 10 to 15 minutes left in our time here today. So I'll just let RWA just make you aware of that.
Okay.
In terms of what you want to prioritize here.
Yeah. So some of these houses that are on that list are built to deeper, including at least one of the ones on St. Charles. The other kind of couple rebuttal things that I had noted here was it was incorrectly stated here that we asked for a overly large home the first time just to come back and look like we compromised on the second half. That's far from correct. That is an inaccurate statement here. We had a program, we revised the program, and it's unfortunate that it was said that we did this on a kind of a negative context of so that we look like we're compromising. I wanted to mention that that's not true. The tree, was stated many times by the neighbors of being on their property or being my tree. It is at most a shared tree, and per the survey, the vast majority of it is at least on our the 3520 property. And the other thing that was stated here was that we need to be compliant with the underlying code. I think Nick mentioned it well, that that this ask on the back is a moving target here. We said it in the first hearing, it still holds true now. If we were within the overall SF6 district on the underlying code portion, we are well compliant with that. It's just the fact that we do have a double frontage lot that requires us to ask. We are not telling any of these neighbors what we're going to do. It should be pretty clear that we are asking for this relief on a substandard lot. This is, unfortunately something that has two frontages. And we're applying for this as a single family home. This is not being applied for as a business. There is no long-term assurance or guarantee that LAD would hold this house forever. This is being designed as a single family residence, and it's just going to be a handicap accessible residence that's really intentionally trying to be held into or maintaining the context of the thing. I don't know if we're doing summaries here, Mr. Sturkey, or not, but.
So yeah, at this point, this is your opportunity to respond to anything you heard, and you have some more time, and you can make some summary closing statements. Mr. Berkey, can I ask you one question though about the tree going back, because this came up in the first hearing too.
Yeah.
Can you say with any certainty that that tree would survive this construction?
I cannot say that with any. I cannot say that with any certainty. And anybody that would say it yes or no is really doing a bad educated guess, is that we can do what we can do to make sure that we protect the root system as much as we can. But there's no, it could be struck by lightning, to be honest, tomorrow. You can never really guarantee anything when it comes to trees on properties. So that's why we say is we'll do what we can. We really will, but I can't promise anything when it comes to the tree.
Sure, sure. I just wanted to make sure we got that on the record, because I know it was a question from the Orzales.
That's fine.
Mr. Sturkey,
Sure.
can I just add one more thing? When it comes to the examples we presented, I would clarify, if you look at 3526 St. Charles Place, that was new construction in 2016, I believe. And that's one of the most important references when it comes to the improvement of values of the neighboring properties. That building in particular, I think, was built in a more of a deeper setback than the original building. Whether that required this special exception or not, I cannot tell you, but what I can tell you is, I'll just go back to the first part of my statement, that whether there is a special exception needed at 3526 versus 3520 on the setback, even if they are the same, that is a moving target. So, but regardless, that building was extended deeper into the lot. As a consequence, the neighboring properties increased in value. So we will point to that in specific instance and evidence in support of that factor that you must consider.
Sure. I think what I'm hearing from the public is that, is that because of, or in spite of, or is that just consistent with market trends in Hyde Park? I mean, is there any control sort of houses that you guys are aware of that could, add some more context to home values in the neighborhood?
I don't know what you mean by control. I don't understand that question.
Sure. So, yeah, I mean, so everything you listed here in terms of valuations are homes that have had recent changes, and the valuations of the next door properties, right?
If you look at the data provided, the 3526 St. Charles Place, they're looking at the approved values of the neighboring properties to 3526. And the evidence there shows that when this new construction was built with a deeper setback, that the neighboring properties increased in value.
Yeah, I guess when I said control, I meant, evidence of properties where there hasn't been any changes. And if those rises in value are consistent when there's no changes at all. But
that's something I can't speak to. I mean, we've presented that evidence, and frankly, it's, this is one of those standards where if it's opinion testimony at best. But we've pointed to specific examples of where, similar circumstances on the same street occurred in the recent past, and you've seen improved valuation, far from a substantial impairment or decrease in valuation, which is what the standard actually is.
Sure, I understand that. Thanks. We got a couple more minutes here if RWA would like to offer anything.
So yeah, I mean, our quick summary here, Mr. Sturkey, we've worked hard since the last hearing to reduce this as much as we can. It is still an ADA accessible home, and that does require increased size for rooms, for clearances in bathrooms, hallways, kitchens, and things like that. So we don't think 13-foot special exception is a big ask. Overall, the scheme of things, that is a relatively minor thing. And the ask is really just seeking the relief for what we feel is, 100-year-old incorrect zoning interpretation when Shady Lane was incorporated as a street. Shady Lane is an alley for all practical intents and purposes. All of the detached garages facing Shady Lane really show that it is an alley, but unfortunately it is incorporated as a street. However long ago when it was, be that 100 years or so, I say that is an approximate. The request we're asking for is really just granting relief from that incorrect zoning interpretation that was done, decades and decades before this project was done. And so that's why we are asking for this relief. We are not telling anybody this is there. We're asking respectfully for this relief. That's all we have, I think.
Okay. So I appreciate everyone here's time and testimony. I understand that there are folks here that would like to add some additional comments. Unfortunately, I'm just not going to be able to take that. The burden, as I said earlier, is on RWA. And so that's why they have extra time here, and that's why they get the final word in these applications. And so I have a lot of evidence and testimony to review here. And so, you guys have, I think most of you have heard this spiel from our last hearing, but I will take the next week or so to review the evidence. I've already done a site visit during our last hearing, so I may go back out. I'm not sure, but that's something that I may also take some time to do. And so I'm going to review all of that, make a determination of approval or not on this, and put that into a written decision. And so as soon as I finish the written decision, I will put that into a PDF and I'll email it to everybody who's in the hearing here today. So you all have a copy of that really just moments after it's complete. As I said last time, if this is approved or denied, it is appealable either way. And so you will have 30 days from the date of the decision to appeal a decision if you would like to, or if you disagree with it. Let's see. Are there any questions about process or procedure? I wanted to also emphasize, and I did this last time, the hearing is now closed, and so I cannot take in any new evidence, testimony, anything like that. And this happens a lot during these hearings. You're thinking of things that you wanted to say or that you forgot to say or that you wish you would have brought up. I just can't consider those now that the hearing is closed. I can answer questions about procedure or process, or if you want an update on the decision, where I'm at with that in terms of timing, I can answer those questions, but otherwise I can't take in any other testimony. Any questions about anything before we sign off here? Okay, great. Well, again, if you think of something that you'd like to ask, please feel free to reach out to me. Otherwise, you'll all be receiving an email with a copy of the decision. Thank you all again for being here and for taking the time to provide testimony and give me some additional perspective on this application.